Hi, today we are going to correct our reading comprehension. This is similar to what you will be finding in your third year exam as reading comprehension. The answers that you'll see as the questions, I've tried to formulate two answers for each question so that because I'm sure we don't have exactly the same answers, but you just need to look and make sure that you guys have the same information in your answers. And try to use synonyms, try to reformulate, and let's start looking at our reading comprehension. In your third year exam, you'll be having one of the things you'll be doing is a reading comprehension. And the first thing that you want to notice is what is the objective of the article. In the introduction, you see that it says what you should do in 2 real-life emergency situations. When we read the word should, we know that we're talking about giving advice. And in this case, we're reading about 2 real-life emergency situations and advice on how to handle them. So in answering the questions, you want to be pretty specific, not just cutting and pasting, but reformulating the question into an answer and using some synonyms and being very specific with your answer. In question number 1, what were Ellie and Fiona doing when the medical emergency happened? You see that we're talking about 2 people, Ellie and Fiona, okay? And we're talking about a medical emergency. Now looking at the purple, that is the first information that you want, okay? So my friend Ellie and I were watching a film. Okay, so watching a film was one thing they were doing. Ellie was eating a chocolate biscuit, but if you notice in purple at the end of the paragraph, we have the biscuits that we were eating. So really, both of the girls were eating biscuits, okay? Then the medical emergency. What was the medical emergency? Okay, it was that Ellie couldn't breathe and Ellie was allergic to nuts. Okay, Ellie was allergic to nuts, so she couldn't breathe. The words in green are the symptoms of the medical emergency. So we don't really need to mention the symptoms, but it helps us to understand that the couldn't breathe is the emergency. So you have 2 possible answers. While the 2 girls were watching a film and eating biscuits at Fiona's house, Ellie began to have trouble breathing. Okay, so there you're saying what they were doing and you're saying that there was a medical emergency, the trouble breathing. Or another possibility, the girls were at Fiona's house watching a film and eating biscuits. As Ellie ate one of the biscuits, she began having a severe allergic reaction. Because you know that she's allergic to nuts, it's a good synonym for a medical emergency. Our next question is, how did Fiona try to help Ellie? Okay, there were 2 things she did. She got her some water, she called 999. The information in blue is really background information to give you a little bit of reasoning in the answers. Okay, so we have first, Fiona brought Ellie some water. Then you have a little bit of information. But when she saw Ellie's rash and that she wasn't able to breathe, she called the emergency number 999. Okay. Then you have another possibility. At first, Fiona gave Ellie water to drink, but when she saw that her friend was having difficulty breathing, she called 999. So you have something between giving Elie some water, and calling 999. And you can add in the emergency number. You can keep it simple. She called 999, but you're giving kind of the first and the next idea. This next question is really quite simple. What happened to Ellie's face? They're asking you, do you know vocabulary? So we have, she had a rash on her face. Okay, you could give a very simple answer. Elie got a rash on her face, if you don't know what a rash is. Or you could demonstrate that you know vocabulary. And you could write, the skin on Ellie's face became red and itchy. The biscuit gave her a rash, or the biscuit had given her a rash. Our next question, why was Fiona right to call 999? Now here in the question, you have the opportunity to reformulate it, okay, and say Fiona was right to call 999, and you need to find out why was she right, okay? The experts say because Elie was having a very bad allergic reaction. You also know that Elie is allergic to nuts, and there were nuts in the biscuits that they were eating. Secondary information is she started to choke, she was coughing, she had a rash on her face, she couldn't breathe, she was choking and her life was in danger. Okay? So here we have the opportunity, of course, to reformulate the question, which was Fiona was right to call 999, and that's a good beginning. And you know with why, you answer because. And then you have to decide what information to give there, okay? We have that she couldn't breathe, so that's a good thing to include. She couldn't breathe, and then interpret having a bad allergic reaction could possibly mean that she could die, right? So she couldn't breathe and might have died. Or, for example, you could again say Ellie's life was in danger, which is part of the text. She was having a severe allergic reaction. In the text in purple, you see she was having a very bad allergic reaction. Here, change very bad, which is a boring adjective, to severe. And then give a little bit more information. She was having a severe allergic reaction to the nuts that were in the biscuits. Okay, it's still very specific information for the question, so that's good. So, on to Jack. What was Jack doing when he broke his arm? There were two kind of actions that Jack was doing. So the first action is hanging out at the skate park. The second action is riding his skateboard. A third action, we'll call it falling. Okay? And so wearing a helmet is not an action, so I did not include that in the answer. Okay? And so we have a couple of possibilities for formulation. Jack fell and broke his arm skateboarding, so that we make sure we have the fall in there, while he was hanging out with his friends at the skate park. Or Jack was hanging out with his friends at the skate park. While he was skateboarding, he fell and broke his arm. I kind of prefer the first one to the second one, honestly, because we talk directly about Jack falling in the first one, but the second one is okay. So, how did Connor know that Jack was confused? Okay, first of all, this is a good question that we can reformulate, okay? And so instead of know, you can use the synonym understand. So Connor understood that Jack was confused, okay, as the first part of your answer. And then how is that we have he fell, he wasn't wearing a helmet, he hurt his head, he was talking, and especially the principal answer is he didn't know what his name was. Okay, so putting this all together, we have in the first case, Connor understood that Jack was confused, firstly, because he had seen Jack fall and hit his head. Secondly, because Jack couldn't remember his name. Kind of a synonym for he didn't know what his name was. Or Connor understood that Jack was confused because he had seen Jack fall and hit his head. When Connor and his friends talked to Jack, they also saw that Jack didn't remember his own name. So you're okay to say that he didn't know what his name was, but you just have to kind of formulate an answer that includes a lot of pieces of information. And maybe you did better, but this is not bad. Last question of questions on the reading comprehension itself. What should you do if someone hits their head and doesn't wake up? Okay, first of all, look at the question. Okay, hits their head, I can't really think of a lot of synonyms for that, but doesn't wake up. We can say loses consciousness, is unconscious, and you need to take this question and begin with an if in your answer. So you have if someone hits their head, or just simply if a person becomes unconscious because they hit their head, or if a person hits their head and loses consciousness. Okay, you have those two possibilities in reformulating, and then you have to answer with the should. Okay, so the information in the reading, in the second paragraph, what the experts say, if they hit their head and can't wake up, you will need to call an ambulance. But remember, in the first paragraph, his mom was Jack's mom was a nurse, okay? And there's another important piece of information. She told us we shouldn't move him, okay? So that also needs to be included in the answer. And so we have two possibilities. You shouldn't move them, and you should call an ambulance or the emergency number. And the same thing in the second part, if a person hits their head and loses consciousness, you should keep them still. Keeping them still is another way to say you shouldn't move them. And call an ambulance, call 999, call an emergency number. Would all be good answers. The objective of these last three answers are to see how you write, actually to see you express yourself for the third year exam. Now in the third year exam, you will not have three questions that you have where you have to write a paragraph each. Most likely you'll have one, maximum two, okay? Now, how do you answer these questions and show that you guys know how to write really well and express yourself very easily? Well, first of all, take a look at the grammar, okay? In question number 8 and 10, you have the have you ever plus your infinitive, plus your past participle, sorry, okay? The have you ever, when someone asks you a have you ever question, yes, I have, or no, I haven't. And then the second question, what happened? What happened means tell me the story, okay? So if you answer yes, in both cases, whether you answer yes or no, you're still going to write, okay? With the yes I have, you use a paragraph from the text as a model to tell your story. So for example, the story of Elie, use that as a model and write something similar or using some, kind of the same structure, or the one about Jack if you prefer, okay? And it does not have to be true, of course, as you know. In the second case, if you say, no, I haven't, you need to give a reaction to the question. For example, and I suggest using second conditional. So, for example, however, if my friend was ever in a life-threatening situation, I would take action right away. And then you could explain a little bit more so that you just show off that you know how to write. In question number 9, the formulation is a do you question. Do you always wear a helmet? Okay, and the answer, yes I do or no I don't. But you're going to have to justify your answer. So the why or why not means justify. Okay, your format would be give a justification, give your opinion on the subject matter, and then give examples, positive examples and negative examples. This way you are actually writing and showing that you can express yourself and show your opinion. So, for example, we have the why not. Yes, I do. You could use a first conditional to justify. If I don't wear a helmet, my parents will take away my skateboard. Give your opinion. I believe that everyone should always wear a helmet because your head is very, very important in your life. And then give an example. Once I was skateboarding and I fell. My head hit the road and I was just fine afterwards. And then give another example to show the opposite effect. On the other hand, my friend was cycling without a helmet last year. He fell and not only broke his arm, but almost died because he broke his skull. Okay, and there you can invent. It's really not a problem. The objective really is just to show that you can write. Follow the same format, even if you say, no, I don't. Justify, give your opinion, and give examples. Okay? And I'm sure you probably had different type of answers than I gave you. Just take a look at yours and take a look at the test corrections and see if you have the basic information, not too much and not too little. Okay? And talk to you next time. Bye-bye.